that this is the way you do it, that you avoid mistakes. Now, when we look at wisdom, wisdom from God's standpoint is the knowledge and fear of God. When we rely on our own wisdom, what happens?
We take a nosedive.
Anybody been following the news on the Webb telescope this week?
You know,
They have discovered a series of galaxies where they don't forecast one should exist. In their eyes, these were galaxies that were formed at the very earliest stages of the universe.
By creation.
Huh? Well, I get to that because they had an interesting picture, and the scientists are going, did we just picture or photograph God speaking the word, the universe into existence? They said, have we just pictured God? No, they didn't, but they're saying that this information is so radically different from what they expect that they're going to have to rethink the Big Bang. It's that fundamental.
This is the first time they've seen this.
Yes. They've seen something like it with Hubble, but because the Webb uses an infrared wavelength, that's what it looks at, they're able to get more information. And the Webb telescope is big. It's huge in comparison.
huge by what?
Huh?
Diameter?
It's like 18, 19 feet.
Okay.
Yeah. And, they're made of little hexagons.
Yep.
And each one of those acts as a mirror, but collectively together, it's like an 18 or 19 foot a piece of glass in space. So what it means is that, all this stuff that scientists have said, well, this is the way it works, this is what happened, all of a sudden they're going, well, okay, our theory is wrong. We need to rethink it. And what's a theory?
Your idea of what
It's
happened?
not proven.
That's exactly it. It's an assumption of what we think happened based on what evidence we have. So when we get new evidence, all of a sudden, well, okay, we've got to change our underlying assumptions because obviously what we were thinking is incorrect. Because what we're seeing via this telescope are things that shouldn't occur based on the models that we put together. So from the scientific thing where they said, yeah, we know how we know how the universe came into existence, that stuff has now been going, okay, we have to go back and rethink this. But them actually saying, hey, did we just photograph God, was a rather interesting thing. You want to have some fun, go out on the internet and look at some of the Webb photographs. They're doing the similar thing that they did with the Juno probe, and that is they release the raw data and allow people outside of NASA to manipulate it to put in colors and that sort of thing. And there's actually some very talented people out there that are doing that. But from our standpoint, when we look at it, it's going like, wow, that is incredible what God brought into existence.
But we can look back at our time, for the last 100 years, and like we brought up before, what we get an idea of what something was is because the 100-year-old people thought that's what it was, so they drew it that way or wrote it that way, and we think that's gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And it was their idea of what it was, and it's not even close sometimes.
Well, no, when we look at how is how is information transferred from one generation to another? Missy, you want to take a shot at that? How do we transmit? How do your parents transmit things that are important to you?
They speak them.
They speak them? Okay.
Tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
Or they could give us information from like books.
Okay.
And,
What?
Yeah.
Okay. So you take this and you have basically, let's just keep it very simple. You have two basic ways to go. You can accept it or you can reject it. You know, there's shades in between, but we'll just say accept or reject. What if something they transmit to you, you don't verify, and you accept is incorrect? Now, you're going to turn around and you're going to transmit it to your children, who are in turn going to transmit it to their children. You've gone from incorrect information to something that is you've gone to, it starts becoming, you getting into a family myth. It happens across a broad range of people, and it becomes a cultural shift. Okay, 1890s, 120 some years ago. We talk about the gay 90s, okay? People who were more likely to live for today and not worry about tomorrow. 1990, you say the same thing, and what happens?
Totally different meaning.
Very different meaning. You know, and you see how your perceptions are changed. One word. 100 years ago, it meant one thing. Today, it means something completely different. So, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Interesting. Any comments?
Well, are we classified as fools because we don't believe everything that the prophets say about God, or are we in the middle of the road saying, yeah, I believe Christ was real, this and that, but this other isn't?
In absence of being perfect, which we are not, yeah, we sort of got one foot in both camps. However, because we are believers, we haven't really rejected what God is telling us. We haven't rejected that godly wisdom. And, when we look at it, yes, there will always be doubts, there will always be, I don't believe these things. And it's, a perfect example is the joke that you and I have running about accepting.
Yeah.
Okay? If someone says, I accept God, or I accept Christ, from a theological standpoint, no, you didn't, but I'll give you a slide because you got to the point, the Holy Spirit led you to the point where you need to
Where
be.
I accepted it.
Why me, God? But, no, I mean, you get to the point, yeah, there is always, and we're even though we have a foot in each camp because of our sinful nature, we tend to go back and forth.
Sure.
In our lives, something's happening in your life and you fall away, or you, church doesn't become that important to you anymore. And if we keep focused on God, we keep in His Word, it doesn't guarantee you a perfect life. But it does say, at the end of your life, when you face judgment, you know what's going to happen at the other end. And that ultimately is the wisdom that we want to impart to the next generation, and even to people who in our generation don't believe. This is the beginning of wisdom. You know, there's an old saying, and I don't remember who said it, that scholarship is the ultimate form of worship.
Meaning what?
The guys that get really into the Bible
Yeah,
are that is the ultimate form of worship, because you are getting into God's Word,
okay.
you know. Now, can that be polluted? Yes.
Everything can be polluted.
Yeah, we do a good job of that. Okay. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. Yeah.
Which one is that one?
8.
Verse
Oh,
8.
and
Okay, AJ, you want to take a shot at that? What's that mean to you? I have no clue. No wrong answers now. So, there's nothing to be afraid of.
Well, to not disregard the experiences and the wisdom of the previous generation.
Notice how both parents have a role. Father does one thing, mother does another. So, as parents, we both have responsibilities in educating you guys.
Okay, it's the instruction of the father, but what is the mother's role?
But don't disregard what your mother tells you.
Yeah, yeah, you know, because when Solomon writes this, society is different. For the most part, the men are out in the field, so they don't have that much interaction with the kids. Until you're about, you guys about 6 years ago, roughly, and you'd be going out with Dad out into the fields as well. Or you would be like David, tending sheep or herding them. So you might get some worldly instruction from him out there, but your first 10 years of life, who are you going to spend most of your time with? Your mother. You're going to be, she is going to be laying the foundation that the father builds on. Now what we do is you have what you get at home plus what you get in Bible study here at church. So you get it from a couple of ways. Okay. Somebody want to take a shot at 9?
Or they shall be, well,
amending,
in order
And
to place
order.
onto thy head and
Change.
chain about thy neck. Can't see it.
lynching.
Well, in one way, yes. Let's think about that for a minute. As a parent, what is our goal in imparting our values to our children?
Truth and honesty.
Okay? If we don't impart that, what happens?
They go off the deep end, or we go off the deep end.
Yeah,
Or we get somebody to follow, we're following somebody that doesn't teach those same rules and regulations. We don't listen to stay on the right path.
now do our kids always follow what we say?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I know that's true in the backwoods. But, your parents ever cut you some slack when you messed up?
They're all gonna say no.
Andre? You don't know? Sometimes. Yeah, they're gonna cut you, they're gonna give you grace. And that's doing two things. It is being as God is to us, but it's also teaching you that you need to be graceful with your kids and with your friends. Friend does something that you don't like, you know, you can confront them and say, hey, I don't like what you're doing, whatever it is. I'd rather you not do that around me. And, you know, give them the grace that they're going to accede to that. You know, I don't want this behavior around me. But that grace that you're learning is coming from your parents directly and indirectly from God. Give other people grace as you are given grace. Otherwise, you're not giving them grace. You're in essence, especially with kids, they're going to go off the deep end. They go off the deep end, and what are they doing? You've given them enough rope to hang themselves.
True.
So, we discipline you because we love you. And it's a perk of being a parent. You know,
But it sure did hurt on the bottom.
Yeah, but pain is temporary.
That's right, that's true, that's true.
Yeah. You want to talk about real pain? Get the mercurochrome out.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go.
They're going like, what's that? Have you ever heard of it?
Oh, not too long ago, he mentioned it in class.
Yeah. It's this red stuff that's probably iodine-based. Our parents,
Stains.
our-
It was.
yeah, our parents used it for everything. You got a scratch,
It had a little glass dauber in there.
Yeah.
yeah, you go out, you go back and, you know.
Made you
you're good to
forget
go.
the pain.
Yeah, whatever hurt, whatever caused the injury, you forgot about. Okay. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. Now, who speaks like that anymore?
Who speaks like the old King James Version anyway?
I think they did at one time.
Oh, I'm sure they did, yeah.
But, okay, if somebody entices you to sin, don't engage in it.
But it sounds good. Sounds like it's fun.
Hardest decision you'll ever make
Especially in a group.
is
Yeah.
doing something that is right.
Yeah, that peer pressure is
Yeah.
really
Mhm.
tough for kids.
Yeah, and I really think it is worse today than it was back when we were growing up.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, there's much more,
Well,
You see it more or something.
Yeah.
your peer pressure comes from people that you see, but it also comes from people coming over the internet.
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think these kids had a better chance of not to peer pressure, because when we went to school, you had everything and everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get connected with this 2 or 3 people or half a dozen that's clear out of bounds, but you don't realize it until you're caught in the middle of out of bounds. And
I think it's worse now because standards are so low.
We had basically 4 groups in high school. Nerds, jocks,
goody two-shoes.
druggies, and the good.
Popular girls.
Yeah. But, you know, you've got a lot of peer pressure from each of those groups to do different things. Druggies, obviously, oh, hey, taking a hit off a marijuana cigarette isn't that big a deal.
I wouldn't know.
I don't either.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that.
Well, I do know that my cousin has it growing in the drainage district of his fields in Kansas. But, they will want you to do behavior because A, they're doing it, and it gives them a sense of power. I brought somebody into the fold. They will look up to me. And resisting peer pressure is going to be very, very difficult in their lives. Hardest thing to overcome. Okay, if they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood, let us lurk
There's lurk.
privily for the innocent without cause. Privity.
What is that?
This is AI.
No, this is King James. Yeah.
Come, let us lay, wait for the blood, let us lurk privily?
Yeah.
Where'd it go?
There it is, it's right here.
Hold on.
Are you looking for a definition? What is it?
Yeah.
In other words, you want to just
From the innocent without cause.
lure the innocent into whatever it is.
And the winner is
In a secret way.
relationship.
Jones?
One having privity, especially one who acquires an interest in the subject matter as property of prior or pending litigation, is bound by the judgment as if he or she were a party to the action. I don't even know what that means.
Neither do we.
Okay, a relationship between persons who successively have a legal interest in the same right or property. An interest in a transaction, contract, or legal action to which one is not a party arising out of the relationship to one of the parties.
I don't know what you said.
I don't think that goes there.
I think it's basically, legal action to which, you're like a secondary contact in a transaction.
Co-signer?
No, that actually makes you a party to the contract. However, we're just this last week, we had a bill entered into Congress talking about insider trading,
Yeah.
okay? Tesla's gonna launch a new battery technology. If I know that, I didn't design it, I didn't help build it, I'm not part of the management, but if I find out about it and I act upon it, what happens?
They get rich, Nancy.
I end up in prison because that's.
Yeah, you do, but
Yeah,
they don't.
That's right, but that was the bill that was entered in, is to prevent insider trading among the members of Congress. And surprisingly, you want to know the two sponsors? This is what the funny one is.
The ones that made the most money?
AOC and,
AOC and Matt Gaetz.
Gates? Gets?
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, boy, that's a strange combination, but hey. So it's, and the temptation is really, really, really tough when we're sitting here looking at it and making a lot of money.
You're not rich when you go in, you're rich when you come out.
Do you think that passage is talking about that sort of thing?
It's talking about, that is an example modern day. But it's, it's having knowledge and using it for ill gain.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's more like,
we're gonna go out and commit some trouble
Yeah.
and you come with us.
We're waiting, we're gonna pounce on the
Yeah.
self-innocent guy that doesn't know
Yeah.
any better
And because you're
you get
with
in
us,
trouble.
even maybe if you didn't do anything,
Right.
you're still guilty.
Yeah,
You were in the car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
I think it's more personal thing.
I had a guy that used to come in and service, we had these little freezer cases that they put stuff in. And his niece drove a couple friends up to where they wanted to go on Hacienda Heights. And it's that case where they went in and broke into a house and chased the woman that lived there down and shot and killed her. And they were arrested, but because she drove them up there, she went down too.
Of course. That's part of the ring.
Mhm.
You're going, in that case, you're going up there to do no good.
Even if you didn't know what they were gonna do,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why you have to be very careful whom you are
Mhm.
connecting
Yeah,
yourself with.
yeah.
Guilt by association. Because we didn't know.
That's-
In some respect, yeah. You hang around with the wrong group in high school, and people make assumptions based on that,
Yeah,
you know. I used to get tagged in high school as a druggie. I had friends who were druggies, I had friends who were jocks, I had friends who were nerds, and I'd go from group to group to group. It didn't matter what, I wasn't involved with drugs, I was involved in sports, and, no, I was a nerd. But, I mean, you sit there and, people would make assumptions. My teachers made assumptions. Oh, he hangs out with the druggies, therefore, he's not motivated. He's not gonna be a good student.
Be lucky if he even shows up.
In our era, we didn't have drugs. There were no drugs in South Dakota.
But you do have pot.
How
Not
about,
then.
how about alcohol?
Alcohol, big time.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you go back and they talk about, in Proverbs, they talk about strong drink. All right, what did they have available to them? Didn't have-
Wine.
It had wine. What else?
Brandy.
Huh?
Wine and brandy.
No, not brandy.
Where, in the Bible? Is that what you- Yeah.
What's the next strongest drink? Well, they had beer.
Yeah.
They also had mead.
And what?
Mead.
What is that?
An alcohol made with honey.
Oh,
Sounds tasty.
Generally is a little higher alcohol content than beer, but not quite as much as wine. And
It ferments though?
Yeah.
It's a fermented thing?
it's a fermented product. If you take a look at, what is, if beer is like, 3.5%, 4%,
3.2 we had,
Yeah.
and 5.4. We had
and
2
then
beers.
because I spent time in Europe and theirs is much different.
Yeah.
So let's say 3%. Mead was 7 or 8%, and then wine would be about 12%. Because the wine that they had back in biblical times wasn't the wine that we think about. You didn't just pour it out of a bottle. You took it out of a wineskin and then you diluted it with water.
Oh, really?
It came out like a syrup. Which is something when we think of wine, is, that's why the miracle of Jesus turning water into wine was so, one of the things that was so amazing is that it was already pre-cut. It was like we would expect.
He
Wine.
aged it.
Well, yeah, it's a product of age, but it was, it was perfect.
The best for last.
Mm-hmm.